Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Fantasy Football University, FFU, coming at you yet again towards the end of the off season. I am Mr. Bildacousas. I'm here with Mr. Tom Lang. Mr. Lang, how you doing, sir?
Oh, I'm doing great. Fantasy football is getting closer and closer. It was a wonderful week one. Not so wonderful for some people, but it was a wonderful look to see some of these players really stand out. And it was also interesting seeing Burrow and Chase finally getting on preseason board.
That's true. Well, considering they're going to have their work cut out for them this season.
Yes, they will be.
We'll comment on all the preseason games and stuff. Just different couple different things that we noticed and things that aren't relevant too. But we got a lot of news and stuff from around the league to get to. However, we do have some big news for everybody for
Yes.
our situation. So, we are making some big changes on our channel. Our quality in general is going up. We got lots of new content coming at you, but most importantly, we are now on basically everywhere that you could be finding your podcast. So obviously we have our YouTube channel. We are now on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on everywhere that you could get your podcasts. We also got some new things coming up in the future. We'll get to that, but we just wanted to be clear that we are on everywhere that you could get a hold of podcasts. We are on, and we would very much appreciate if you could like, share, and subscribe. And honestly, like in terms of like interaction with us, any place that you leave a comment, including on our TikToks and stuff, I should have mentioned our YouTube, TikTok, anywhere. If you leave a comment, we will respond to it. If you got questions, if you got comments and stuff, we'll respond to it. We really appreciate it. Good, bad, ugly. We really, really appreciate you guys. And yeah, we're excited to get this rolling. Any other
Yeah.
thoughts on that, Mr. Lang?
Yeah, no, we again, we appreciate our growing community. Everybody that's interacting with us outside of different platforms and this and that, whatever. Yeah, yeah, it's been fun, and we're ready to rock for
Uh,
the season.
By the way, I had one further thought, and we kind of halfway talked about this off air. So we're growing our community. I mean, we're getting better in general at our whole thing, our whole presentation. But one thing we wanted to just convey to everybody, as we get better at all like the external stuff, video, community, the channels, all that other stuff, we just want to say like the actual content, like, and we'd like to kind of convey this and prove it to you guys this year. We do know what we're talking about. We're pretty accurate with a lot of predicting, a lot of how we do it, the process, explaining why we're doing it. We're pretty accurate with that stuff. So we're happy to put our money where our mouth is for stuff. We'll actually be pointing out like there's actually a couple big leagues that we're in this year. We'll point out some of that stuff as we go along too. So
Yeah.
we're happy to have you guys along the way. All right, no more clerical stuff. Let's jump into some news. Mr. Lang, from all the games that happened, what are some of your biggest takeaways?
Yeah, so I mean, there were some statistical standouts that really stepped out. There was some non-statistical standouts, and then obviously some other elements as well too. Is I have to work on my speech. I probably need a speech pathologist to help me out. So if anybody knows anybody out there, come drop a comment so we can be in contact. But
Always fun.
anyway, the standouts really Keenan Mitchell 9 for 68 and a touchdown. Talking about Derrick Henry is obviously a beast. It's very, very difficult to see him get injured. Really, he's obviously getting older. I don't think that you're going to see so much attrition this year. In backwards regression because he works so hard. But if there is a game, 2 games, 3 games that he may be out, who knows? It just happens, right? Keaton Mitch is basically the guy that's going to take over that running back room. It's not going to be Hill. Hill has his pass down backs, and he's a passing down back, and he's a third down back technically, unless it's short yardage. But Keaton Mitchell is basically that running back, behind Derrick Henry. So it was really, really cool to see him really step up and be because he did it on the field 2 years ago. He got injured unfortunately last year, and he's back. He's proven a point. So it was really good seeing him. Obviously, as I said a couple minutes ago, Chase and Burrow making connections. It was really, really impressive to see them actually on two drives together. Burrow went 9 for 10, 123 yards and 2 touchdowns, and then Chase went 4 for 77 and a touchdown. So it's really good to see them connecting and being on the preseason practice field technically, because they usually have an 0-2 start or 0-3 start and really slow start, so they're going to need that connection and obviously the offense to be clicking early on in the league, early on in the year for them to actually do something in that division. Um,
I wanted to ask you something. I'm sure you'll comment on some other stuff. So I
yeah.
felt the same way about Keaton Mitchell and stuff. Um, a bunch of people were asking me this too. What things during preseason, even if they jump out at you, like which things are like, okay, like it's preseason, whatever. There's going to be some guys who wouldn't otherwise normally get so much time. They get big plays here or there. Like, how do you distinguish between what things are relevant that we should care about and what things aren't? I have an answer
Well,
to that too. I'm curious what
a
you would
lot of
say.
times it's just really what happens early on, right? Because like the first stringers are out there. So if somebody's performing against the first stringers of that other offense, defense, whatever it is, that's what you're looking at. Throughout the rest of the game, with Shador Sanders going into the third quarter and basically putting up 123 yards and two touchdowns and going 14 for 23, it was nice, to see him perform that way for what he was drafted at. But again, he was also going against the third and fourth string. So guys that are not even going to make the roster. So, it's good to show that he's able to do that. But,
Sure.
again, he's on the injury report with an oblique injury today. So he actually got injured in practice today. But again, I don't find that as relevant as I would see as like as a Keenan Mitchell going 9 for 68 and a touchdown, because after the first quarter and a half, he was done. His day was done. So he was kind of going against the twos at one point, but again, he was pretty much looking good against the ones. And yeah,
I guess that's fair. I would say that, like, from my perspective, it's again, we say everything we want about coach speak and player speak and stuff. But a lot of times, what we're looking at is like, hey, is certain trends that maybe we heard of in preseason that is connecting with what they're saying, that is connecting with, was there a question about something? Okay, and now we're seeing it on the field. Now we're seeing something play out that's been part of a trending analysis, part of a thing that's happening. Like it's as long as it's part of the same narrative, that's just an endless array of that narrative, whatever it is. I would say then I start paying attention to stuff.
yeah,
And I think that you and I are pretty good at picking up on, like, okay, this looked like something that we should care about. This looked like something we shouldn't care about. Case in point, like you said, Keaton Mitchell, I mean, he looked great. Travion Henderson, okay, he had that kickoff return touchdown thing.
yeah. And that was
Uh,
the next thing I was going to bring up. He
yeah,
started
go
off the
ahead.
game. He started off the game with a 100-yard kick return. He looked elusive. He looked
Right,
electric. He looked fast. I mean, it was just, it was. I mean that. But again, that game was out of hand. They
sure.
destroyed the Washington Redskins, Commanders, whatever you call them these days. Um, so they destroyed them. So and again, it is preseason. I'm not really too worried about the Commanders not performing in that game. Their defense looked fairly good, but I mean, you got a young team with the Patriots who, and they also their defense looked really really nice as well too. So, but Travion Henderson, I mean, he looked very good. I honestly still feel it's going to be a 50-50 split with him and Ramondre. Um, and Travion could catch the ball too. They both could catch the ball. So
Yeah, I think something like that. Like, I don't care about the game results. Like, I mean, the 2007 Patriots lost preseason games. Like, that's
yeah,
not the point. The point is that Travion Henderson, just on that one play, showed so much explosiveness just on that one play, vision, etc. That, again, it's on a kickoff return, it's in
yeah,
preseason, whatever, but just showing the explosive shows that there's potential there. And I agree with you though. Like, I wonder if this is just that one play or whatever, is just going to shoot him up the board when you and I have already been cautious about people, raising the bar on a lot of these rookie running backs when the incumbents, now, notwithstanding the Los Angeles situation, which I'm sure we'll get to, but other than that, like they're going too far with that. The incumbent is there. They're going to be relevant. It's going to be a thorn in anybody who drafted, Caleb Johnson or Travion Henderson's side for most of the year. So maybe
Yeah.
they take over, but it's gonna be for
It's
a
going to take
whole.
time.
It may
I
take
mean,
time for
the
that.
thing with fantasy football though is too like when you have people that draft these players at their ADP and then they're not performing. That's when you're going to find people like that on the waiver wire. So
Yeah.
you got to know where you're picking these players like as the season starts because you got to hold. Or if they find their way to the waiver wire, you got to pick them up and just let them sit on your bench spot. But you'll need that depth to basically get you through the period of time where they're not going to be performing as accurately as you want them to. Um, the other one,
Any other preseason big ones? Yeah.
yeah, Bryce Young looked really nice. The first drive and a half, two drives look really good. So the Panthers' offense looked pretty good. The only thing that's area of concern that I feel right now is, Chuba, it was the primary guy. Then they went out and they got 17 running backs. I think Rico Dowdle is looking like he's going to be the pass catching third down guy, which potentially could take away from goal line opportunities from Chuba. Do you feel the same way, or
Ah, maybe not enough for me to dislike it where Chuba's going. I
Mhm.
mean,
Well, he's going in the fourth, fifth round.
you can't just judge that just by whatever that one preseason game is. I mean, Chuba's the guy.
No, he is. I mean, he's proven himself for the past 2 years. He finished in the top 12.
Yeah,
But the thing is, when
on a
you add
bad
more
team.
talent to that backfield, it could take away. Like that's where I feel like it could spoil the opportunities that he can overproduce where his ADP is.
Considering that you spent basically half the year poo-pooing everything that nice that I said about Rico Dowdle the entire year, I don't want to hear a single nice thing out of your mouth about
Well, they
Rico
paid
Dowdle.
the guy to come in and play.
And stop calling him that name. Call him by his proper name, Rico
So,
Suave.
no,
So,
Rico Dowdle.
I mean, it remains to
He'll
be
be
seen.
suave. He'll be suave if he actually overperforms my projections.
Short answer to your question is no. I don't think that makes me feel differently about Chuba, where he's going. I mean,
Yeah,
we'll get into now again. We should point out for our listeners, we're really going to get into rankings in finality next week. We're also going to be. We haven't really been commenting too much the last today and probably the last week on injuries. There's a lot of them. We could just
yeah.
talk about. We probably just talk the whole day about 49ers injuries, for example.
Oh, rough.
We'll get into that. But next week it's going to be our kind of final situation. We'll comment on how you should view that for the draft. By that point, things will clear up by then, and we'll get into the rankings.
Yeah,
I wanted to mention one thing I was like saying one thing I saw. So I just thought I'd mention this. Like I thought Jackson Dart looked good for the 2 seconds that they let him play for. He's got a long road ahead of him, but like I said, I saw a level of talent in college from him that like I seen the talent. He's gonna be on a bad team, and we'll talk about it today. The Giants are gonna have a bad year. We'll get into it today.
highly disagree. I think their
Uh,
defense can carry them into a lot of games.
all right, we'll see. Then to your point, then that could be an amazing betting thing to bet their over under. But we'll get to
Oh
that.
yeah.
We'll get
Um,
we'll get to that today. But I did like I'm only saying this not to be homers or whatever. I did want to say something about the Jets. If you saw the Jets game, this is why Justin Fields should be a late round quarterback
yeah.
shot for you guys. That is what is going to make him valuable. He effortlessly walked his way into the end zone because he's just a superior athlete. It's Lamar Jackson level of athlete. Is he going to be the most accurate? No. Does he need to be? Absolutely not. Other than peppering Garrett Wilson with targets, which is basically what they're going to do. They're not going to be the best team. They're not going to be the worst team. But as long as they're in games and things are going and it's a mediocre season, he's not going to get replaced. He's not going to get walked out. And all that rushing volume, rushing touchdowns is going to make him very valuable. I'm starting to think of him. I don't think he's as high, depending on the scoring system, as you or I have, like in terms of a value as Dak. But I've got him like in the Dak Kyler, just like I've got them as serious values, basically.
Yeah, with his
So
ground game, yeah, I could see that. But I still value Dak over because like he's
I
gonna be,
so do
yeah.
I. So do I, but man, like you said, like we had the mock draft last week, right? You lost
Mhm.
out on Dak, who ended up being your quarterback, right?
Yep.
So yeah, it's something to keep in mind. Anything else or
Yeah, I mean, there's a
yeah.
bunch of other things I would love to talk about, but I'm gonna just really cover two more things. One was obviously a serious injury, actually. Maurice Norris, cornerback for the Lions. He went down in the early fourth quarter. The teams decided to run out the clock. It was like almost 14 minutes and change that they actually ran out the clock. So, it sounds like his extremities are moving. He's doing
Yep.
well. But that was obviously a very scary moment for football. You never want to see guys not being able to move after, taking a hit like that. And Godspeed and hopefully everything,
I don't know why they didn't just end the game. Like they got to
it,
run
well,
it
yeah,
out.
well,
Like
technically, I think technicality they had to run out the clock,
they don't have to
based
do
on this.
anything if the coaches decide. I don't know,
No, they
but yeah,
did. I mean, I don't know. I think nobody knew what was going on, so they just continued to run the clock out. Very, very intriguing on a positive side.
yeah,
Very, very intriguing player that is creeping up my board. Calvin Ridley, Cameron Ward, however he wants to go by. Ridley was his favorite target during
sure.
that one series. He caught, I think it was 3 for 3. And I could see some pretty special things happening to Calvin Ridley this year. His routes are looking really nice. He's running crisp routes. He's always done that. Um, and I think I mean, there's some talent around him to actually, for him to stand out a little bit better, a little bit more. So I think it could be a really good year for Calvin Ridley. He's creeping up my boards, and I think he's going to be a very fair value in drafts this year. That could finish off close to number one wide receiver numbers. Um,
That's
I
a
feel that
that's a bold
I
statement
feel
about that.
yeah, it's a bold statement, but I feel
I
really high on him.
I don't. I agree with half of what you're saying. I think he's undervalued. I think Cam Ward is going to use him. He's by far the best wide receiver on that team. Now he is a vet. Now we're going to talk about this a little bit today that there's going to be a group of players that might fall off at some point throughout the season. He strikes me as one of those guys considering his age. So, I mean, we'll get into that a little bit, but I agree with you in terms of where like we said when we talked about draft strategy, everything is in relation to where they're going and your opportunity cost. Considering where he's going, what you would be giving up to get him, which is not much, absolutely. It's definitely a good late round wide receiver shot
Mhm.
for sure. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's pretty much all I got. I mean, obviously, there's
I-
some little like news and updates and stuff like that, but honestly, I mean, those are the most important things that I wanted to discuss.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, we could there's any number of things we could mention from preseason, like just different things that, just kind of like shot out if you noticed it or whatever. But we're trying not to overreact to every little thing. And most importantly, like we said earlier, which are the things that we're seeing that are relevant to what would be a decision-making opportunity in your draft or during the season. So we'll comment more on that as the preseason goes on. Like we said, in terms of other news, we could talk endlessly about injuries and stuff, like we just said earlier. We won't stop there. We're gonna save that for next week when we talk about final rankings and our full injury and contract roundup. So let's jump into our main topic of today. We're going to be talking qualitative metrics, which is basically the opposite of quantitative metrics. We had last week we had a show where we were talking about draft strategy, and we gave you guys a lot of stuff about math, about kind of like the basic concept of stuff, things like why you wait on onesie positions, why running backs are valued earlier, but why wide receivers are much more valuable and why they hold their value farther on in the draft, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of other things we kind of mentioned. We could also, talk endlessly about, certain type of metrics like, hey, how many targets is the guy getting a game? How many targets per routes being ran are they getting? How many carries are you getting? How many carries? What's your yards per gain? Yards per carry, etc. These are all quantitative metrics that can be measured by numbers. Qualitative metrics are different. These are things that we're basically, not that it's exactly narrative street, but we're about to extrapolate stuff from just qualitatively what we see about the teams. So we'll break it down for you guys. We'll get into that. So let's start right at the top. We're going to start at the offensive line rankings across the league. We're going to be referencing Pro Football Focus for this. This is extremely relevant. Okay. Case in point, we'll talk about we'll mention all the teams, but just to case in point it, Saquon Barkley had a good year last year, right? Who was the running back for the Eagles the prior year?
Swift.
DeAndre Swift, who had a fantasy relevant year, but nowhere near as good. Uh, you want to talk about how much that offensive line was just moving mountains out of the way for, lesser DeAndre Swift. And then Saquon Barkley goes for 2,000 yards. That's how much a superior offensive line actually matters. And they had a good back behind it to take advantage versus, like you could name how whatever awful, horrible offensive line that's not going to be able to manage anything like Kenneth Walker or whatever. He could dodge however many people in the backfield all he wants and end up with 3 yards per carry because his offensive line is terrible. So let's get into
Like the
that.
Texans.
Right, which we'll get into that now. So, Pro Football Focus, the top offensive lines in the league ranked by PFF, the Eagles number one, no surprise. Broncos number two, Bills number three, Bears number four, and the Colts number five. The one that strikes me the most there is the Broncos. And it's making me feel good about Dobbins, really, for the at least to start the season. Maybe Harvey later on. And anything strikes you about that?
No, I mean, I think Dobbins has a great start to the year. It sounds like RJ Harvey right now is the fifth string running back, but
Sean
yeah,
Payton.
I mean, Sean Payton does that to all rookies. But I really don't see too much about that. I
He's
think,
lucky he's even on the team, as far as
yeah,
I'm concerned.
yeah, but
But you should also mention, obviously, this affects running backs a lot. It 100% affects
no, it
quarterbacks
does
and their ability.
100%. I mean, if you don't have no offensive line, you really can't do much. I mean, you could do more. You could do better in the receiving game because you're
Right,
going to have to, for screens and little dump offs and stuff like that. But running the ball, you need a good offensive line or a middle of the pack offensive line to actually get down the field. And the other thing is too, it's also the quarterback, right? A lot of the offensive line, the Bears are number four right now on PFF. The thing is with that, I mean, Caleb Williams was destroyed last year half the season. So
right.
hopefully that offensive line can actually prove to actually be the number four offensive line. And if that holds true, then obviously I could believe that, DeAndre Swift's going to have a really good year as well too. And based on where he's being drafted, I mean, that's tremendous value. But going back to value, though, talking about the Bills,
Sure,
I'm sorry, talking about the Broncos,
sure.
you got a lot of value right there. I mean, Dobbins is going in almost some of the 10th, 11th round
That's
in
right.
circumstances. The other thing with that too is one of the big news that we didn't actually discuss was uh, Cook is back at practice. He got paid.
Yep.
He broke the bank. So he's back at practice. I'm not too worried about Cook being having any type of regression in the beginning of the season because he has another 3.5 weeks before the season starts. So the Bills having this third best best offensive line, the camaraderie that they have the same chemistry, the same guys there. So nothing is changing. That's the biggest thing. And that's why I think these players are going to really see a positive, fantasy point value for the remaining part of the season.
I think probably what we should do to explain to people is really what we're trying to get at with these metrics and what we're talking about is we want to see it's basically going to be confirmation bias. We want to see it confirm things that we already believe about the players. It's not going to wholeheartedly change what we think. Um, but we want to see it confirm. We want to see it confirm those. Like, for example, the Colts there at number four. We're feeling pretty decent about Jonathan Taylor. It's just an extra, like, oh, just an extra half safety thing. Like, okay, they got a decent offensive line. It'll be okay. Case in point, let's talk about the bottom five. The bottom five, Giants at 28, Patriots at 29, Seahawks at 30, Bengals at 31. Not surprisingly, and the Texans at number 32. And it confirms what we already believe. Like, for example, Tommy and I have been way lower than consensus on Joe Mixon the entire offseason, not his injury notwithstanding. And this is like why. Like, this is why. Like, their O
Yeah,
line is
but
awful.
there's a double-edged sword with that though, right? Because we've been so high on the Bengals rushing game, right? So, we have to make sure that we
Are we?
understand. Well,
We're
yeah.
we're not exactly. We're high on Chase Brown, not necessarily for the for the rushing. They're gonna have to pass every single play.
Yeah,
Burrow's
but
gonna have
somebody's
to
got
get
to
the
run the
ball out of his
ball.
hands. Yeah, it's gonna be Chase Brown. Like, well, they're gonna be on offense every play. I mean,
I
we'll
mean, the
get
guy might have negative 50 yards for the season rushing, but then have 1,000 yards receiving.
we'll see about that. We'll see, but that could be valuable. But it's sort of there's the point. And we'll get into more of this on the Giants, but again, like it's not gonna, man, offensively they're gonna have some issues, really, the Giants. It's just not gonna be good. And yeah, like we brought up, let's just quickly mention the Seahawks situation. So you cannot take away Ken Walker's talent. You can't. He is a very
No, but he's going to
talented
miss
back.
15. He's going to miss 3 to 5 games of the year.
That's sort of the point. You have a guy who's injury prone. He know he's going to miss games
And he has a heel injury right now too.
on top of the fact that like there it's just bad offensive line. And again, we're predicting, or at least I'm predicting, a bad season from Seattle because Darnold is now the quarterback. I know Tommy, he's we have a ice bath bet on that, which we'll get to later here in the off season. But that should be qualitatively what you think. Let's talk about defensive rankings. So top five, number one is the Broncos. Number two are the Eagles. So Broncos and Eagles, best offensive line, best defenses. They're going to be both good teams this year.
Yep.
Number three is the Ravens. Number four is the Texans. Number five is the Chiefs. Bottom five, 28 Titans, 29 Panthers, 30 Falcons, 31 Bengals, 32 Raiders. So the Bengals, the 31st ranked offensive line and the 31st ranked defense. So like we said, Burrow wanted all the money for himself and Chase and T. Higgins, and he got what he wanted. So he got what he wanted. Congratulations, Burrow. So now this is what I make of this from the defensive rankings. Teams that have better defenses are more than likely better. On top of the fact that they're going to be good teams, they're more than likely to be ahead, and they're more than likely to be not abandoning, but like we know the deal from a game strict perspective, focusing on running the ball, especially towards the second half of the games or whatever. And um now, notwithstanding the Broncos, the Eagles are going to be that point. I mean, they're just going to get ahead and then they're going to just stop passing the ball. The Ravens are probably going to be very different. It's going to be great for Derrick Henry with that great defense. And on the other side of the ball, I mean, the other side of the token here, uh teams that have bad defenses, they're going to have to put up points to keep up. Case in point, what we've been saying about the Bengals and the Raiders with the worst defense. It makes me feel better about guys like Jacoby Myers, John T, and stuff, right?
And the Titans with
And the
Calvin Ridley and
Titans,
Cameron Ward.
I agree 100%. Panthers, they're going to have to put up points. And the Falcons bolstering the whole Bijan Robinson situation. So, like,
You know what the funny thing about that? You got the two divisional teams right there. You got the Panthers and the Falcons at 29-30.
right,
The only really good defense that actually is out there on that on paper. Well, there's two, obviously the Saints, but the Saints ain't going anywhere this year because their offense is going to be in the doghouse. But the Buccaneers are middle of the pack.
that's
Pretty
right.
much both. They're an average offensive line, average defense, and their offensive skill plays are above average, I believe.
Yeah, no, it's 100% right. So let's talk about strength of schedule. So top five easiest strength of schedule this year based on Las Vegas lines of the win totals. Number one by a large margin, actually, it was the 49ers. Number two is the Patriots. Three is the Saints. Four is the Falcon, and five is the Bills. The hardest, 28 Vikings, 29 Eagles, 30 Lions, 31 Browns, 32 the New York Jets. I have no idea how Tommy thinks that they're gonna. I have no idea. Yeah, their defense is gonna have to carry them, but it's just not gonna be good. But we bring this point up of like running backs, for example. You'd like to have running backs on good teams that are gonna be in positive game strips that are gonna be winning games. Uh, it makes me feel better about the Travion Henderson Ramondre situation, although I'm not gonna invest really where Henderson is going now. He's getting shooting up the board. The Saints are going to be bad anyway, so maybe their easy schedule doesn't matter. But makes you feel great about the Falcons. It really
Yeah, but
does.
also, there are you can look at this all day long. You can figure that out, but you know what talent is. Obviously, like you have you have two out of the top three running backs in 29 and 30 right there, right? Bijan, not Bijan, Saquon and Jahmyr Gibbs.
Right.
Bijan's the
But they're
only
on the
one in the
best
top five.
teams.
They're on the
Right.
best teams, basically. But the thing is, you can't relate that to, all right, well, my team's gonna stink now because I have now Saquon who has the 29th hardest uh you know route to go and for the season, that just means that the game's going to be a little bit more competitive potentially.
Sure.
So meaning that like, obviously they're going to be putting up more points in order for them to actually achieve the winning that they need to achieve to make the playoffs and so on and so forth. We're talking about games, games, not fantasy. These players are also going to have to produce, and statistically, they're gonna see it in the fantasy numbers. So, I actually don't mind the hard schedule element because, again, that doesn't really correspond as much to fantasy. If not, I
Uh,
think the
it
hardest schedules
does.
sometimes actually correlate to a better fantasy productive season.
It depends. Again, this is the point of why it's all qualitative. We're making a judgment call based on, hey, this is what we're seeing. This is how it may relate to some of these guys. It doesn't mean that, hey, therefore, nobody on the Detroit Lions is relevant. That's not the point. That then you're
No, the
missing the
point is
point.
that they're going to be in competitive games. They're going
You're
to be
right.
putting up points, and they're going to be scoring.
Right, but the point is, where does this qualitative analysis actually move the needle for you? And I would say probably the 49ers for me, this is where this moves the needle. It's why I like
Uh, this-
I bet big
They
on the 49ers
they just
winning
got to
that
stay
division.
healthy. They just got to
They have to
stay.
stay healthy. But like I bet on the 49ers to win the division. I think the 49ers, I think they're gonna have an unbelievable season. I think McCaffrey's gonna be great. I think all their players are gonna be great. Like
Like Ricky
I'm what
Pearsall.
yeah. Like this is where you're making a judgment call qualitatively on what is actually going to count for the season. And we're gonna, by the way, like when we talk about rankings next week, we're gonna be making the call on, hey, based on some of this information that we're talking about now, hey, does that apply to all the guys when we start listing them all out? So I just wanted to point that out. So let's jump into some more fun stuff here. So let's start. So we just covered the strength of schedule. Let's talk about early season versus late season. This matters a lot because it's going to affect your draft and it should affect make me how you make trades, etc. So let's talk about early season players. I've got a couple categories here about what actually counts as a better player for the first half, first couple of games of the season versus the late game. So early season players. Here's a category of vets who fall off due to age and attrition, or the other guys on the team, the younger ascending guys. Are there, but they're waiting in the wings to get their feet under them before they take over. Some great examples of these guys is James Conner, Alvin Kamara, and Mike Evans. And I guess we could throw in Calvin Ridley, but let's not overdo it. But these are guys that have you could just check their ages, 30 years old or right around there, maybe even older. Actually, all of them older. These are quality guys. You know they're going to be the guy, but how long are they going to keep that going for? I mean, we've been talking all the time about Kamara. Like he's the entire offense. How long can he possibly keep that up at age 30, 31 at this point in his career? James Conner, it's at some point, it's the end of the empire. He can't just take every single carry doing everything. Trey Benson is there. He'll at some point do it. Mike Evans, we're waiting for we're waiting for Chris Godwin to come back. An ascension of Abuka, if I'm pronouncing his name right. Jalen McMillians is there. Evans will be valuable for the first couple of games of the season. Um, like it makes me think of maybe I'll try to draft like what we would say about Kamara. Draft him, get that value, and then 2 or 3 or 4 games in, trade him away at his highest point. You're not, but I know you don't think the same way about Ridley, but
No, I think Ridley's going to have a tremendous year.
the whole year. Okay.
I think it's going to be very consistent.
Okay. Let's talk about players taking advantage of other players' absence due to an injury or suspension. Top names on this list here: TJ Hawkinson, Travis Kelce, and Juwan Jennings. So, TJ Hawkinson, no surprise. He's going to be way better in the first half because of the absence of Jordan Addison. Travis Kelce, the same thing. We're not exactly sure what's up with Rashee Rice per se. We'll get a definitive answer, but Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice, they basically vulture the same area of the field. You go back and look at like different of their points of when they're on the field together. It's very different than when it's just one of them. And Juwan Jennings, I mean, Ayuk's not going to be playing the first part of the year. Uh, Juwan Jennings is going to be there to soak up every wide receiver target that, and Debo's gone. So before Ayuk comes back, I know he thinks Ricky Pearsall, but the point is you get the qualitative narrative street
Listen,
analysis of this.
listen. I understand that, and I'll talk Ricky Pearsall real quick. They drafted him. They drafted him. They're choosing not to pay Jennings. So Pearsall is the guy
Okay.
there. He is a part of the future.
I know.
But
We should
anyway,
we should we should explain this to any viewer who doesn't understand this. Anytime I say Jennings, he says Pearsall, and he can't. He just won't do it. He won't separate the two. Fine. So we'll just leave it there. So either way, you guys get the point. It's guys taking advantage of the early thing. Some other good early season guys to keep in mind is guys that have good matchups early in the season. Um, it's versus later on in the season. Some great examples of this would be Chuba Hubbard. He's got some great matchups for running backs early in the season. Drake London got some great wide receiver matchups early in the season. And T. Higgins, go look at the Bengals schedule the first couple games. They're gonna be throwing it all over the field. I strongly recommend to keep in mind of trade. Don't be afraid to trade away guys, even if they go for like 3 or 4 straight weeks of 20, 30 points or something. Trade them away at their highest point, take into account what their matchups are coming on later in the year. So just keep it in mind. Let's talk about some late season guys. All those rookie young guys behind the incumbent starters. A lot of those rookie running backs not named Omarion Hampton. For example, Caleb Johnson is a great example. He'll be better later on in the season. He's getting overdrafted now. Everybody thinks he's going to be. He's not. Jalen Warren is there. Henderson's another example. Ramondre Stevenson is there. Jordan Mason is a great example of this. We think Jordan Mason is a great value in the draft where he's going in the 1,000th round. He is going to be that workhorse. Aaron Jones is older. Aaron Jones
uh,
is a
50-50 committee backfield. They're going to split, but I think Mason's going to shine a little bit more.
little bit later on in the year. Yeah. We got next category here. Players coming back from the injury or a suspension. This is kind of like anti the other one. So remember, be wary of drafting them where you're drafting them. We're talking guys like Chris Godwin, Jordan Addison, and even Taysom Hill, or another guy you could name that's coming back from an injury or suspension. They're not going to be doing much for you at the start of the season, whether they're suspended, whether they're injured. Give it time, though. They're going to become more valuable as it goes. It's up to
Yeah.
you whether or not you think your team could support that. I mean, however many bench spots you've got.
And I will say, I mean, you're going to start seeing Chris Godwin, Jordan, Addison, and also, I mean, Taysom Hill's undrafted, but Goddison and Addison basically are going to be get pushed back in drafts. And if you could get them at a value 2, 3 rounds after their projected ADP, then it's going to be a great value to stash them for the time. I think out of all of them, I mean, I think Godwin and Addison have pretty much almost equal value, but I think Godwin, when he's 100%, he's a great talent. And he has consistent week in, week out, where Addison sometimes he's kind of boom or bust.
I would say each team is different. You determine if your team can support that kind of thing. I
Yeah.
prefer to have my bench spots working for me, but you determine that. Yeah, people can make their own call on that. Let's talk about guys who've got bad matchups earlier in the season. To me, this is a big one. So here I'm gonna give you some names right now that got some bad matchups. Now, again, guys that are big names, it doesn't matter if they've got bad matchups because they're amazing names. But for example, the Dallas Cowboys have got some really awful matchups. If you go look at their early season schedule, that doesn't mean I'm going to feel less about CeeDee Lamb. Like, obviously, you draft a superstar, but maybe it makes me think a little. Maybe I don't draft George Pickens where he's going, and then I try to make an early play for him for a trade or something 2 games into the season. Another example of a guy would be Isaiah Pacheco. Awful matchups for Kansas City running backs first couple games of the season. Another guy, Rashad White. Awful matchups for the Buccaneers running backs first couple games of the season, and especially considering he's not even per se the starter, it makes me feel less about it. But it's something to remember that I mean trades could always happen. You could probably get these guys on the discount a couple games into the season if you're not going to draft them, even guys like Chris Godwin or something. But just remember, for anybody who doesn't realize, uh, let's say this happens for more guys that are suspension or something, the longer that the season goes on, people will recognize, like, hey, guys who aren't there, they're going to become more valuable every week that goes by. Obviously, as more time because their date of return is approaching, whatever. So you guys can determine when the value meets that timing situation. Um, Here's a question for you. So I know we've been lamenting the situation with Chris Godwin, and he's not going to be playing the start of the season, whatever. Um, you would actually draft Chris Godwin if the ADP was right, you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, if he
Right.
falls, 2, 3 rounds after his, ADP, has him, I would stash him.
You would stash him. Okay. What? And obviously, as time goes on, because
I'd
you brought
feel better about Jordan Addison this year because Godwin's coming off of an injury.
right.
Obviously, early on in the offseason, I was really, really high on Chris Godwin because I thought he was going to start the regular season based
Mhm.
on what was all the information on the news, all that. But then as the offseason continued, he had that second procedure, which basically prolonged his, and they're not going to rush him back. There's no need to rush him back. He could be an end of the year fantasy, football league winner kind of thing. But again, he might be somebody to target if you're not willing to pay for him in a draft. He might be somebody to target in a trade when somebody's basically getting, itchy and trying to potentially either drop or trade him because he's not doing anything for their roster.
Let me ask you something. Let me ask you this. You mentioned Jordan Addison. So I don't know if it's officially they've agreed on it or if there's going to be appeal. Let's say it's as it is. Jordan Addison misses the first 6 games of the year.
He's
Sta-
missing 3 games.
he's missing 3 games. It's finalized.
Yeah, it was confirmed that basically he was that he missed 3 games. Yeah, 3 games.
Oh, so then okay. So it's 3 games. Okay. So Jordan Addison is still draftable in your opinion?
100%.
Okay.
But value wise, I just don't know if
Okay.
I'd pay for him, where his ADP
Sure.
is currently right now.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
remains I
He
mean
he's
that's
basically he doesn't plan to appeal his 3 game suspension. He's agreeing to it, so he's letting it sit.
okay. Here's a good example. Quinshawn Judkins. We're not sure what
Well,
exactly is going to happen with that.
Judkins ADP has
Yeah.
fallen at least 4 or 5 rounds,
Well,
so
l-
he's a
let
value.
let me ask you this. Let's imagine Judkins is gone for the first 6 games of the year because that's what I've heard. Let's say he's gone for the first 6 games of the year. 6 games being gone is a long time. That's
Yep.
6 games you just got to leave him there doing nothing. So is he off your board at that point?
Um, it depends, right? It depends on again where he falls in drafts. His originally ADP
Let's
was
say his ADP is not drafted, 14th,
not.
15th round or something.
Well, I mean, I'd take him in the 15th round.
You would take him in the 15th, leave him on your team for 6 weeks doing nothing.
100%. Because
Okay.
honestly, and the reason is because he is practicing still. It's not like he's banned away from the team. He's still getting his, his practice reps and all that stuff. And honestly, I mean, by the 6th week, you know what's going to happen to Jerome Ford basically being behind that offensive line. He's going to get destroyed. So he's going to be worn down. They're going to utilize him.
That's fine. That might just be how you particularly choose to play. I don't like having that much. Uh,
He's going to get drafted.
I
You
like to do more. I like to make more moves with my bench stuff, I guess. But
Yeah, I'm telling you right now, Judkins will get drafted in every single league. Pretty much, he'll he'll
uh,
probably be he'll probably be owned in about 70% of leagues, which is high. Um, and but in those 30, the remaining 30% of leagues, he's going to be a great waiver wire option. He'll probably be picked up 2 weeks before his suspension is lifted. It would be more valuable if you have the space on your roster and you can afford it to hold on to him.
okay. All
Again,
right.
it's situational.
Yeah, it's situational. You guys can make your own decisions on if you want to do that. Qualitatively, you know, it like we said, it's situational. It depends on how you play. I would have more of a trouble kind of sticking with that for that many weeks on a guy who's going to do absolutely nothing on the team. But again, you guys can make your own decision. All right, so let's talk about the main about maybe the most fun thing here. So we're going to talk about players going into a contract year. So now it should be very clear, and please feel free to do your own research on the internet for this. This is some area for controversy because of considering we're quote unquote talking about people's money and affecting their livelihoods or whatever. Here's the deal. Mathematically, is it a causation? Is it a correlation? It depends on what mathematically it tends to be where players are performing better when they're going into a contract year. I'm not saying that in every case. I'm not saying that in every specific case. I'm just saying overall, there tends to be that thing. And if you just think narratively, it makes sense. People are looking to get paid, and the year in which it's going to matter the most in which they get paid, they tend to perform the best. Again, take of that what you will. Check out the trends. There's a bit of an argument. We have to point this out. There's a bit of an argument on the internet about this because it suggests it's like, what are you telling me players aren't going to? We talk about we're excited when players get that big bag. Now they're going to go perform and stuff. It's just human nature. Check it out for yourselves. There's a correlation. So let's point out some of the guys that are going into a contract year, and we'll point out whether or not we think that it's enough to move the needle for us to feel good about it. Talk about running backs. Point out the names real quick. Travis Etienne, Brees Hall, Isaiah Pacheco, Brian Robinson, and Ken Walker. To me, the biggest names on there affecting this is Travis Etienne and Brees Hall. Um, so Travis Etienne is somebody who we've identified as a late round running back target, who we are feeling pretty good about given the situation. Not saying that Jacksonville is going to be amazing. Not saying we're not exactly projecting him to be an unbelievable running back where he was 2 years ago, but we're saying considering where he's going, how far down, absolutely a value. And he needs to prove it. He wants to get a bag. He wants to do something on a team that's got a new head coach. We're feeling pretty decent about ETN.
Yeah, I feel
Um,
great, especially his value is amazing right now this year.
right.
If you're going zero RB, he's going to be a great running back to actually find in the late rounds.
Even if you're not, if you need like a running back depth,
Oh yeah,
that's an upside pick right there.
RB4 right there.
Brees Hall. So Brees Hall is close to the top of the draft. But he is looking to get that new contract. I don't exactly like a lot of the words that are being said around the Jets and stuff right now. I've been following it like, oh, it's going to be a committee. Is it not going to be a
But
committee? He
it's
wants
gonna
to be the
be
guy.
it's
He,
gonna be a committee.
I don't know exactly, but I know that if he wants to get paid, he's gonna have to be electric this year. And considering, in my opinion, where he's going in ADP, I would be perfectly happy having him as my RB2.
I know exactly
So
what you're hoping in that one league that you have the number one overall pick. You were able to get Bijan with the first pick. That's an automatic. And then in the third round, or hopefully you're thinking about in the fourth round on that back end, right? You grab Brees Lightning, and it's not going to pay out for you.
we'll see about that. But it should be noted he is going into a contract year. He needs to perform. Pacheco's going into a contract year. I think it's I'm a net neutral there. We know what Pacheco is, and Kansas City
You,
is
you
like
know what though? There's so much hate on Pacheco. The guy was out for a full season with a broken
I
leg, and
know,
he
and
came
and
back
he came
last year.
back and
He
he
was
wasn't
half
ready.
speed.
Right,
He's gonna be fine this
right.
year. Everybody understand he is on a great offense. He has, in on paper or not on
Great
paper.
offense.
He is on a great offense.
Eh,
He's on a great offense. And I really think, he's gonna find the end zone a lot. There might be some vultures of touches with Kareem Hunt, but Pacheco is a great running back. He's proven to be a great. He was a top five running back the year prior. So,
right.
I really feel like he's gonna fall back in line, especially if everybody's feeling like that Mahomes is gonna be on a revenge tour. This is the last ride. This is the last ride for Kelsey. It's gonna work out. I think they're gonna put up some really good numbers this year, and I would take Pacheco at the value where he's being drafted.
Brian Robinson, the other name we had here, who
Oh, love me some Brian.
Brian Robinson already is a darling of me and Tommy's,
Oh yeah.
considering where he's going in the draft. So that just confirms what we already believe about him. And
When
then
he's on the 5 yard line, he's scoring a touchline.
Ken Walker, which, like I said, great. He's going into a contract year, but he has to stay healthy, and B, he has to not get creamed by the offensive line.
Yeah, if you wanna use it, I mean,
Yeah.
he's again metrics wise, he has great stats. But the problem is if he's not on the field, he's not producing for you. So he's kind of like the T. Higgins of the running back position. You know what you're getting when you're adding the value, and obviously you're paying a lot for T. Higgins.
Let's talk about wide
So are the
receiver.
Bengals.
Let's talk about wide receivers. Some interesting names here. Treylon Burks, I guess we'll just move right past him.
He's
Uh,
on IR. They actually
yeah,
waived him. They he passed through waivers,
yeah. Let's
unclaimed,
just
placed on IR.
let's
He's
just let's just move past it. But
okay.
three big names here: Jacoby Myers, George Pickens, and Debo Samuel. So Jacoby Myers, I think this is the biggest one here. He was going to want to perform. He's the number one wide receiver on that team on a with a quarterback who could actually get him the ball. I'm feeling great about Jacoby Myers this year. George Pickens, like we said, they got a bad early couple games, but we're feeling great about Dak and their passing game. George Pickens could be a great late round wide receiver.
He just needs to slow down
All
and
right.
not get emotional on the field.
It is, yeah, it's gonna and it's going to be an emotional few games before they kind of open up their schedule. And last one, Tommy is feeling really great about Debo, given the McLaurin situation. I'm feeling better about Debo, regardless of but marginally better about Debo. If McLaurin is not playing, I'm all in. But
I mean, I think with that's the McLaurin saga right now. I think
yeah,
he'll get paid. He's gonna settle.
yeah,
Let me put a bold prediction. He by the 20th he will be paid.
okay,
August 20th.
okay,
By August 20th, 11:59 a.m. he will be paid.
all right.
Not
Well,
p.m. a.m.
we are recording this today, Wednesday, August 13th. So by our next show, you think it'll be paid? All right,
Correct.
we'll find out. All right, let's talk about some tight ends. These are some interesting names. So Mark Andrews is on here, David Njoku, and Kyle Pitts. The Mark Andrews situation is pretty clear. So with the Isaiah Likely situation, who we were worried about Isaiah Likely really like taking off and cutting into the Andrew stuff. That kind of solidifies Andrew, at least for the first couple games, first half of the year, or whatever. And he's looking to get paid, whether he stays in Baltimore or whether he leaves. I think he's still going to have a good year. He bumped up significantly on my board. We already talked about it when Isaiah Likely got hurt. David Njoku going into a contract year. We can feel as good about him as we want. If it's not Flacco throwing him the ball, we don't care. So hopefully it's Flacco. It's going to be Flacco for the first part of the year. So he's another early season guy. And tight end Kyle Pitts. Um,
Man,
Tommy,
I'm just gonna say something. Um, he is a problem. He's a massive problem. He's been a problem. But I will say this. Um, Kyle Pitts is he was he was their number one overall pick when he was drafted.
the number
Um,
4 overall or
yeah,
5
well,
overall, something like that.
he was their number
Right.
one pick in whatever was it the 2021 2022 draft
2021.
2020 draft whatever it was.
Yeah.
Um, he has shown signs of good. Nothing great, but good. And he's shown more signs of horrible play, right? Giving the ball to the defensive players plays. Um, and again, you're not on coach speak. We don't talk on coach speak, but honestly, I do believe based on the conversations with the offense if Michael Penix, Pen 15, is looking to get him the ball and is saying he's going to be forcing the ball to him, they're gonna work on plays. They already have a really good dynamic offense. I think he's going and they're lining him up more at a wide receiver. I think that he'll see more targets this year. Now, is he going to catch those targets? He is not Quentin Johnson, so he does catch the ball. Um, but I'd say he's a 50% better than Quentin Johnson with catching the ball, and that's not saying a lot. So I think he may have opportunity to have a really good year, and he is technically being undrafted. He is the 16th, 17th tight end
Sure.
on boards. So there's a tremendous amount of
The upside is there.
upside, but there is you don't want to go take him in the 10th round. Let's just put it that way.
No, but that's what we're saying. The upside is here's a guy where the upside is gigantic and the risk is low. Let's just continue to count the ways. We think the Falcons have, like we said, a very an easy schedule. They're an improving offense, and Pitts is going into a contract year, and uh, Darnell Mooney, what's his injury situation? Is he like out for the season, or is he like he might not even play for a first couple of games? So
It's kind of teetering.
yeah, so if Pitts is the clear-cut number 2 target on that team, and like we just said, if he's
Well, he'll
going
be the
bait
number he'll be the number three target because Bijan will be the number two at least.
whatever it is. But like if he's gonna and he's going where he's going, I would take him as an upside pick. I really would. If I'm really punting on tight ends, if I got to take two for multiple shots or something, absolutely could do worse than that. Um, let's talk about quarterbacks going into a contract year. So some of these names I don't care about, we'll just mention. So CJ Stroud, that's the big one. Justin Fields, Sam Darnold, and Russ. Don't care about Darnold and Russ. That's irrelevant for like the purposes of this. I think Stroud is very, very interesting to talk about. So you go from having an unbelievable rookie year to having kind of a bad run, but definitely much more of a run focused year in a league in a year that they still went to the playoffs. We both are
Yeah,
down
but they
on
did that. They did that under, basically having a
right.
really poor offensive line as well too.
Well, they're going to have a poor offensive line this year, but we do feel that they're going to move more towards they're going to balance it more back
Apparently,
towards
they have
yeah,
the worst offensive line this year.
yeah. I still believe in Stroud. I think he's very, very talented. He's going to want to try to get paid. He's going to want to try to make moves. They're going to try to win games. He's going to try to do what he can. Uh, it makes me feel better about the passing game in Houston. So I'm actually rising on Nico Collins, for example, and we'll talk more about the other wide receivers in Houston next week. So, and then of course Justin Fields. Like I said, Justin Fields to me is among the best late round quarterback shots like we just said, go watch that preseason game on top of he's going to a contract year. Is he going to stay with the Jets? Are they going to trade him? Is he going to try to be a starter elsewhere? He's going to want to perform. He's going to want to perform. The Jets are going to need him to perform, and he's going to waltz into the end zone a lot of times this year. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. I think I worked hard, by the way, to find as many guys as I could from a relevant perspective who are going into a contract year. I didn't mention any defensive guys. I didn't mention anything like that. Um, here's a question for you. Like what I said at the top of this section was it is a trend. It's not for everybody. It's not specific. You know what I mean? There's just an overall sort of tendency that players tend to perform better going into a contract year. So are you agreeing with me that it depends on a case by case basis where that matters, or do you kind of generally look at that more one way or another way?
It depends on a case by case basis. I mean, if we look at the quarterback situation, I mean, you're talking about CJ Stroud is going to get paid. He's going to be the quarterback of the future. He is the quarterback of the future there. They're not going to bring in anybody else there. So, I mean, he's going to get paid there. And then these other two guys, he's all, Fields, Darnold, and Russ. I mean, Russ is, he's a one and done this year, because they're going dart next year.
Sure.
So performing early is just basically it's a passing of the mantle as the season goes on. But I think Darnold and Fields have the most to prove. And I think that there are tremendous values. Nobody's really drafting Darnold right now, but nobody was drafting Darnold last year.
Right.
So
Right.
we'll see. I mean, honestly, I mean, I do feel pretty good about the Seahawks offense.
This is one of we should point this out. This is one of the major disagreements you and I have. Seattle's offense in general. Tommy thinks that they're going to be pretty good. He thinks that they're going to win 9 games, and Darnold's going to be good, and he's going to sustain a good Seattle offense. I think Seattle's going to be horrific. I think they're going to fail on offense, and we already have an ice bath bet where bet the he bet the Seahawks to have over 8.5 wins. And I bet under, and Vegas is over under with them currently. I think it's been bet down to is it maybe it's still at 7 or it was at 7.5. I wonder if it's been bet down. So we'll take a
I
look.
don't know. I got to get some
But
money on that.
yeah, well then you better get some money. So Tommy and I are allowed to disagree where we disagree. Another one is we kind of disagree on the secondary 49ers wide receiver, but take of it what you will. And like we said, in general, we just went over a whole lot of qualitative stuff. You guys can make a decision on how much narrative street you want to walk down for each of the guys. But like when I am caring about things that I'm openly saying I'm caring about players that it is a confirmation bias for, where I
Yeah.
could see hey, this is the next feather in that cap for that player. positively or negatively.
Yeah, and
So
honestly, I mean, you guys out there that are obviously taking the time to watch the videos and go through it, just, leave us a comment if you have any
sure,
questions with this stuff because, the things that we went over are these little bits and pieces, but you may have players on your roster if you're, if you're looking to draft somebody, if it's just, a new league and you're looking to draft these players, or even if it's like, a dynasty league and you're like, hey, do I want to hold on to this guy or trade this guy based on these potential statistical elements? Drop those comments. We'll assist you in making,
absolutely.
and help you make a decision that could, positively affect your roster.
Before we close the show, I just want to quickly mention, just to advertise next week. Next week we have a big show next week. We're going to be covering all the injuries, all the final injury roundup, all the pending suspensions, whatever. And we're going to be doing all of our final rankings for every position, all of our tiers, everything. We'll get you guys perfectly ready for draft season, so you guys have the most up-to-date information. So we'll get to that. Closing thoughts, Mr. Lang?
Yeah, again, as we said earlier, we really appreciate everybody that takes the time to tune in. We are on every platform now.
Yes, we are.
So get us on your radio when you're driving into driving into work, wherever you do. We have different podcasts and all that stuff. So if you could like, share, subscribe, and engage with us, like we said, we're here to help you guys win your leagues and obviously win your draft. So we appreciate everybody tuning in and looking forward to seeing you on the next one. We will be obviously doing a mock draft this week as well too, so we'll be dropping that later this week. Um, so yeah, tune in and let's win.
Cool. Thank you, everybody.